Yes, so hello everybody, this is Rodrigo Polesso, and I have with me here Bruno Piscinini, and I have with me as well John Carlton. I'm going to talk more about him in just a second. We're going to start this in English, okay? John doesn't speak Portuguese yet, but anyways, we're going to put up some subtitles. You're probably going to see subtitles here, so everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be smooth, and you're going to take the most out of this conversation today, I'm pretty sure. So the thing is, John Carlton, basically, I could say that entrepreneurship, I mean, entrepreneurs are divided into big groups, right? The ones who actually studied John Carlton and the ones who didn't study John Carlton, okay? And he is probably very humble about it, but I'm not. I know the real power of this man. So John Carlton is definitely the most ripped off and respected copywriter teacher, copywriting teacher alive today. And he has worked closely with other marketing legends, definitely, like Gary Halbert and Jay Abraham. And John is also a mentor for many big internet marketing names like Evan Pagan, Frank Kern, Mike Filsaime, and many, many others who always make sure to mention, they always make sure to mention that they've changed their business studying John's material. So that's the real thing. And these people listen very closely to what John says, and so do I, and Bruno as well, and that's why you also should pay close attention to what John has to say. So it's a great honor to have John here today with us to share a little bit of his wisdom, and you're definitely in for a treat today. So welcome, John. Thank you very much for participating with us today.
Happy to be here. I look forward to the interview.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. John has a very good sense of humor, and I know that because of his materials, his books, his methods and stuff, and also because of the Homer Simpson that you can see on the back there, the Christmas Homer Simpson, which is pretty cool.
He doesn't work or I'd fire him up. He sings bad Christmas songs. It's pretty funny. Glad you guys know about the Simpsons down there.
Oh yeah,
of course.
Oh yes. Well, you do. You know, Joe, let's just, we can just dive into it, you know. Let me tell you, believe it or not, copywriting is already a new concept in Brazil. And that explains why so few people have huge success online, while the big majority get average results or worse, no results at all. So we usually say that copywriting is one of the, or if not the most crucial skill one needs to learn in business. And copy is the soul of a business and can literally transform any business overnight, really. And the thing is, either knowing the concept or not, you're still using it all the time. And the odds are that you not use it in a good way. So Bruno and I are trying to get this point across, but I would like to hear from the master itself how important you think copy really is in life and business itself.
Yeah, the older guys, the guys my age, there's still a lot of us out there. Dan Kennedy, Clayton Makepeace, Gary Halbert and I were very, very close for 20 years before he passed away a few years ago. And we came from direct mail and what was called print advertising. So the ads that we wrote either went through the U.S. mail or they were in magazines, or they might appear on television. I wrote some of the first infomercials that came out in the 1980s when cable TV kind of exploded. And what we used to say when things like clients would come to us and ask, you know, how is radio, for example, how are radio ads different than direct mail, different than print ads, different than TV ads? And we would have a very standard answer, which matters also now that we're in an online world with the web doing most of the work for marketers. And that is, everybody sells. Whether you're facing a single prospect face-to-face or whether you are presenting, say, a video sales letter or a written web page or an ad in a magazine or a piece of mail, you're translating the message that you're trying to get across. We call it a sales message. In other words, one of the simplest ways to think about this is that if you have a business, whether it's brick and mortar, somebody comes into your store and says, I like that shirt, how much is the shirt? And you help them buy the shirt and also a pair of shoes and a coat and things like that. Or they come to your online establishment. Maybe you have some kind of contact thing where you call them and you actually get them one-on-one. Whatever you do one-on-one, with someone to get them to realize that you're a credible guy selling whatever it is you're selling, that what you have is something that really will change his life, and that you convince him that he needs this right now so that the sale goes down, the deal happens. That sales message that works between you, the business owner, and the one prospect, what copywriting allows you to do is to multiply that times however many people you can reach. So if you can effectively sell one person, you can take that sales message, get it down in writing, get it down in video, get it down in a form that you can then send out globally now. With the World Wide Web, you can now not just talk to one person, excuse me, but you can talk to everyone on the planet who will watch your video or get online or access whatever media it is that you're presenting your sales messages. That leads to one of the simplest ways I've helped a number of businessmen get their first ad together, which is if they were good at selling someone one-on-one, then what I got them to do is copy that that message, record them at as Gary Halbert used to call it, at fever pitch, and transcribe it, and then take that transcription and just kind of fuss with it a bit. And then you're going to have your best first written ad or manuscript for a video that you're ever going to have, because it works. If it works on one person face to face, there's very little work you have to do to make that work in writing or as a script for a video that then goes online that works for everybody that watches it. So if you just get the idea in your head that copywriting is the missing link between you selling one person and you selling the world, that's what does it. It helps you move from just speaking it out loud or using your personality to translating all of that into the written word, which is then spoken, sometimes video, or a lot of people do videos where it's them, a talking head talking. It can really be that way. People get very nervous about it because they think, oh my God, I'm not just talking to one guy, I'm talking to a lot of people. You just get over that, and when you start applying. Just to add to that, one of the things that surprises Streetwise salesmen, and I cut my teeth, I learned how to sell from guys who sold on the street. You guys probably have never met a door-to-door salesman, but they still existed back when I was learning my skill set, when my career started. And these are guys that would go door-to-door selling encyclopedias and cookware and all kinds of stuff. And if they didn't make a sale that day, they sometimes slept in the car and they might not eat dinner. So they really understood what worked and what didn't work, and they knew what would get the door slammed in their face and what would keep people holding the door open and getting interested and then actually paying money for this stuff. So they understood this stuff at this really visceral level, human to human. And when those guys, they often didn't understand how to translate that to the written word. Some of the better guys, like Jay Abraham, you mentioned Jay, I had mentored under Jay, and Gary Halbert, both of them did have face-to-face, door-to-door salesmanship experience. So they took that. When they finally sat down and started writing copy, they took what they knew about what it took to get the interest of a person face-to-face, to persuade them to act, to get them convinced that they were the person they should deal with, and to get them to part with money, to get them to actually pay for what Jay and Gary were selling. They were able to apply that to copy, and that made it so much more powerful. So it's not just this abstract, I have to create an ad. A lot of marketers think that there's something mysterious and magical about an ad, that something goes on that they don't understand, and it's really not. It's just fundamental, basic, human-to-human salesmanship of again, convincing, persuading, and finalizing the deal. The video sales letter that you guys are interested in came about, of course, because of the technology changes online, the ability for video to load very quickly, especially on mobile devices, and it changed things. So as soon as the savvy marketers knew there was an opportunity for video, they went to video. the same way that I mentioned before we started recording that I had been involved in what we call infomercials here in the U.S. I'm not sure what you guys call it in Brazil, but these are late night commercials that run for an hour sometimes, and they're selling one product, often exercise equipment or say a supplement, for fitness or something like that. It doesn't much matter. The thing is, good marketers grasp onto new technology advancements that allow them to get their message across. And I mentioned that I started out in direct mail and print, which meant that I had to rely on the written word. So I at most would have a photo to help me sell. So I could have a photo of the product or a photo of some person or something, and I would use photos, but not often. I had to rely on the written word. Once when we went to radio, we could only rely on what you heard. We could only rely on the audio. There were no pictures on radio. There was no written word. So we had to make everything memorable. When late night TV exploded and we started doing infomercials, now we had visuals. We had visuals. We had the written word. We could use audio. We could use everything. And what happened was when the web happened, when the web became viable as a marketing source, where people felt comfortable going on to an online site, using a credit card, delivery services are real good, for physical products or for information products, you could get them right away, email. People start trusting this whole process. When that happened, we knew it was going to be a very short time that we progressed from just written word websites, which the early websites we had looked like blogs, essentially. There'd be a headline, and it looked pretty much like a print ad would look or a direct mail letter would look. It was a manuscript. And when video got to that point where it became a viable, useful tool, all of the good marketers kind of went that way, because now we were able to use audio and visual and the written word and all of the sensory tools that we have. The only thing we're lacking right now is smell. So if we can find some way to start attaching smell-o-vision to people's IMAX, we'll do it. We'll start misting out roses and nice smells and get people into a relaxed psychological state where they're smelling baked cookies and stuff like that. We'll do it. Right now, that's the only sense really we don't. That and tactile. We don't have a real tactile sense. So it's funny that we're still seeing. We're getting around. We're describing the way things smell. If smell is a big part of the sale, and describing how they feel, the heft, things like that. So as writers, we get pretty good at describing that. If you were face to face with somebody, you could actually hand it to them. Here's what I'm selling, and the guy could feel it and smell it and get a real sense of it, and actually use it. How long? 10, 20 years from now, when 3D printing is really advanced, tactile senses are going to be back. I don't know what they're going to do about smell still, but as these sensory things happen, the good salesmen take full advantage of all this stuff. That's a tangent. I apologize, but it's interesting to know how copywriting fits. Don't get scared of it. We call it copywriting because in the world of advertising up until about 20 years ago, it was almost all written. Almost all ads that were consumed were written ads, either in the mail, in magazines, or if they were on TV, there wasn't a lot going on TV. They weren't anything like, they were very simple, straightforward ads. It was like a pretty girl holding up a pack of cigarettes. Buy this cigarette, it's great, or drink this beer, or whatever. So there's a very simple use of the visual on TV. We progressed a long way. All copywriting is a way to get down in what we call manuscript form. I think that should translate pretty well, Rodrigo. Translate the salesmanship that you understand, the persuasion, the convincing, the establishment of credibility, all of those essential things that any Streetwise salesman understands. To get that down into a form where then it can be consumed by your prospect, either in as a video, as an audio, as written, as a combination of all those things. So nothing mysterious about copywriting. People get all hung up on the idea of writing. I will tell you that I have taken near illiterate Streetwise salesmen, and got them to produce their ads by getting them to record themselves, having that transcribed, and then having, you know, someone that really doesn't understand advertising, just go through and take out the ums and ahs and kind of smooth it out, and there they have it. They have a script that they can use. They could slam that into a newspaper, just add a headline. They could use that as a script on a video. They could do a lot of things, and they never touched pen to paper. They never typed a single word. They didn't write at all. But what they did was still copywriting, because they translated the sales pitch into something that could be used in other forms. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. I was like, when listening to that, like I was remember sometimes I talk with some clients, and one thing that they don't realize is that they think, oh yeah, we have now the interwebs to use to sell our stuff. How does that work? But it's not really a question of how the internet works. How does salesmanship work? Because as you said, it's just like you're selling to one person at a time, and not like to a whole stadium. And people, like what we notice sometimes, especially in Brazil, that it's like copywriting is new, the internet is quite new, like let's say e-commerce is quite new in Brazil, is growing at a really fast rate. And some people that, even though they understand, they never really had a big salesmanship background. So like they lack both the copywriting and the salesmanship. So that's what we're trying to help with all the stuff we're bringing to Brazil and all the copywriting, is to kind of like make the bridge for that gap, that people that do not know copywriting and do not have enough salesmanship skills, and then we're going to try to teach them in a way that they can actually use it and skip a lot of the process, because we know it's not easy to like influence and not manipulate, but like influence, persuade someone, to convince them that what we have for them is good or it's bad, or they should do or they shouldn't do. So there's a whole process involved. Well, you know better than us that you've been involved for 20, 30 years, so you know pretty much like what it takes to actually make all those moves. John himself talks a lot about this. So I think it's pretty important, all that message to translate in a way that people can actually use it for their own products.
Yeah, it just
Oh, I was going to say, Bruno, just to add to that, the idea of taking away the fear of advertising is to create some kind of what I call a formula or a step-by-step process. I have my own simple writing system. I teach people who have no idea how to advertise at all, who aren't even good face-to-face salesmen, and I take them slowly through a process. It takes a few weeks, and we coach them, but it happens very quickly. It's just stop being afraid of it. Just get into it. This is just, you know, if you're ever talking to somebody who says they can't sell, but they're married, or they have a girlfriend, or they have anything good in their life, they sold themselves to that person they married. They sold themselves to get that job somewhere. Everybody sells. You're selling all the time. A lot of us don't understand it, because if you don't examine it, it can seem kind of mysterious, and it's really not. It's really very, very straightforward, and formulas work. And the great thing about formulas is you can go through a formula and not even understand what the hell you're doing and still get it done, because as long as you cover all of the basic points, like if you know, often as a freelancer, I would come in and look at a marketer who had left huge chunks of basic fundamental salesmanship out of the advertising they were doing, regardless of what they were doing. They neglected to establish their own credibility. They didn't say who they were or why they had the product, or they didn't explain very well what the product was or what it does to people. They ignored testimonials. They left out large chunks of what are basic fundamental parts of salesmanship, which again, you know, establish your own credibility, make sure you get the person's interest, make sure you have them see it outside of their own or inside of their own experience, how it's going to help them, and then start to close the deal. Those, you know, a lot of people can get someone interested in what you have. I like to say it's really easy to get someone to say, wow, that's a really interesting product you have. You know, at some point down the line, I may even buy that. To get to that point is fairly simple and straightforward. To get from that point to, oh my God, I got to have it now. Here's my money, and here's my credit card, or here's my cash. That's what separates the guys who make it in business from the guys who kind of struggle, who continue to struggle, because they don't understand how to close the deal. They don't understand how to apply the rest of the salesmanship story, which is present this in a case where this is going to go down now. You need to buy this now. Your life's going to change right now. The product's going to start helping you right now. This is how you become, who you were before is now over, and who you're going to be once you have this product in your hands starts now, and the excitement starts and all this stuff happens. That's where people get kind of lost, because they are naturally uncomfortable in feeling pushy, or feeling like they're being rude, or feeling like they're being what we call in the United States a used car salesman. I don't know if you have them down there, but the classic used car salesman here in the States wears garish clothing. He's very pushy, and he's unctuous, and really tries to lay a sale. And often people come back, buy something and then feel bad about buying it. You don't have to be that guy. You don't have to do that. You can be smooth. You can be nice. You can be that guy that's going to be a good friend of theirs for a long time. You can start a relationship that will last for a very, very long time, where they're buying multiple things. Maybe they belong to a membership site that you have. Maybe they love seeing email from you. It's not like, oh God, here's another email to delete. They say, wow, what's he got to say today? And you start this relationship and this conversation, and it goes off. You can be that guy. The top marketers are that guy. They are a welcome presence in their customer and their prospect's life. So that's a huge difference when you talk to people about where you're at now. Taking your business online can be a scary proposition if you don't know what to do, and you're afraid to make a mistake, and you're afraid you're going to offend somebody, or all this stuff happening. Just get over your bad self. Your job is, you have one job, and that's to convince people who don't have your product to see how their product might help them, and if it's an ethical, logical transaction, to get them to buy it right now. So that's the only job you have, and it's a great job to have, because a lot of people didn't know your product existed. They didn't know how much better their life could be. A lot of people's lives are stalled. They're plateaued. They're stopped in life because they need something, and they're looking for it. Sometimes they don't know what they're looking for. Sometimes they don't understand it. It could be everything from like Tony Robbins self-help stuff to, as I say, finding the right nails to finish your daughter's playhouse out back. It doesn't matter if your life is stopped and you're looking for something, and this person comes in your life and says, I know where to get that stuff. In fact, here's a really high quality version of it, and blah, blah, blah. And you go through that. You've now helped this guy. You've taken him from a position of being stopped and not going anywhere to suddenly life goes on. And now this is what advertising does. This is where people get confused about capitalism, especially in exploding economies. Some marketers, you guys may be experiencing this, some marketers just waltz into certain markets, and because there's no competition, or it's an underserved market, or the competition doesn't know what they're doing, they experience massive growth right away, doing bad advertising, bad marketing. That's great, but that goes away, because soon there's going to be competition that knows what they're doing, and tomorrow you're going to wake up and there's going to be some heavy hitters in there who know how to advertise, know how to market, know how to make a better version of whatever it is you're doing. So you better get hip to it. Don't think that you are blessed magically, and that's why people are buying from you. They're buying from you because you may have been the only guy in that market, or you may have had the lowest price at one point. Do not rely on that stuff. Marketing is an involved relationship with your market, with first prospects and then customers.
Yeah, in Brazil, it's just it makes a lot of sense. Brazil is just crawling, is still catching up compared to US. We are like a few years behind. So we will reach this point when people actually get to know how to apply good proved copywriting, and then the competition is going to fire up. And then people need to really catch up and learn the skills and everything. Otherwise, they're going to fade into people are going to forget about them. Anyways, but the good thing, you talk about like being pushy and all of that. The way I see today on internet, you just pretty much you teach, right? Marketing today is kind of teaching, so you give a lot of value all the time to people, and you also apply the copywriting tools, etc. But people feel good because they're getting a lot of things from you before you even mention that you have something to offer. So give a lot of things, and then people are going to feel good and actually buying whatever you have. And what you say usually to people, that if you have a great business and you have a great product, a really, really good product, And the saddest thing to see in that case is people not being able to sell that thing. And we only know that the problem is copywriting. They just can't get the message across. They can't present the product in a proper way, in a proven way. So they end up with a great business, a great dream, and a great product that we know they're going to save a lot of lives. But they can't manage to sell it. And that's something, if you apply, that's one piece of copywriting. I mean, it can be one video or one sales page that can change, like, overnight your business. You can become a rich person overnight. Like Gary Halbert, I think he said, right, that the difference, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the difference between poverty and riches is just one piece of wealth. Yeah, one sales letter, right? One good piece of copywriting material. So absolutely. That's the thing. We're trying to make that point across, to get that point across.
And Rodrigo, to just expand on that point, it's heartbreaking, but having a good product and being a good person, an honest, ethical businessman, really out to help people and change people's lives, will not save you in the real world. There are a lot of sociopaths that will come in and know how to market, and they don't care about the quality of the product, and they will rip you off, and they don't care about a lot of things, but they know how to sell. They will become rich, and they will dominate the market, and you are sitting by going, well, wait a minute, I got the better product. Yeah, but you didn't have the better marketing. So I think the message that you guys are trying to get across, which is, it ain't that tough to have superior marketing. It's kind of like, I mean, bring it all down to soccer if you want. You know, it's like, you know, you guys dominated the soccer world for so long because you had a particular way of playing. It kind of clashes with the European way of playing, but you force the Europeans to raise their game. And it's like you can't take a high school team against a professional team and expect them to do well. You can take a high school team and teach them the same, you know, have them learn the right way. So when they get a couple of years older, then they will be able to compete. That's how competition works. You can't just go out there and say, I'm a really good guy and I love the game. You know, I love the game so much, I'm going to be good at it. No, you're not. Just learn the fundamentals, take the fundamentals, take that up to the next level when you have to, and you'll be competing with the big guys. But don't expect some kind of natural immunity from the market forces out there just because you got a great product. As I like to say, the marketing graveyard is crammed to bursting with superior products that failed because nobody figured out how to sell them.
Yeah, that like the other day, me and Rodrigo, we have like a podcast that we talk about a lot of stuff, and in one episode in particular, we kind of talked about that point in particular, that some people believe that just because they have a great product, that's going to be the final answer for everything. But like you said, it's not, especially because if they don't have good marketing, they're not selling. People, they cannot know that it is a good product because they never bought it. So it's like it's behind a wall that no one sees it, and that wall is like, if they don't pass that wall, they're never going to see that the product is so great. So you need better. There's many countless examples of products that were like not selling anything. Someone bought it and then made a better marketing, and then all of a sudden it was everywhere. And it like the product didn't change. What it changed was like the copywriting, the right marketing, the right message, the right words, the right media, everything. But the product itself, sometimes, of course, you need a great product, especially if you want to win in this game long term. But to sell it, you need marketing, you need copyright, you need the right words to get a message across, to make like that move that when you said, oh, that's nice. Like when we were talking about like, oh, that's a nice product. Maybe I'll buy one day. I was hearing, I think Dan Kennedy's copywriting course another day, and he was mentioning that if you take to someone your sales letter, and that person say, oh, that's a very good sales letter, but I think you should change that on page 3. You didn't do a good job. You should be saying, where can I get that? Where can I buy that? That's good copywriting because it makes the person move.
That's actually a Gary Halbert quote. And
it's Gary Halbert. Oh, okay.
He used to take his letters into a bar, actually, in Santa Monica. This is back in the late 60s, early 70s. And he would read his latest ad to the bar, and if they said, that's a really good letter, you know, that's a really good ad there, Gary, he knew it was going to bomb. He knew it was not going to The only acceptable response was, wait a minute, where can I get that? So that was a big thing. You know, Gary Halbert and I also had just as an aside, we had a couple of professional copywriters we used to run our ads by, and if they liked it, if they liked what we had written, we knew we had a bomb, because these were professional copywriters, and even they couldn't tell the difference between good writing and a sales pitch that a good sales pitch or a good sales message becomes invisible. It just gets into your head, and you're no longer reading, you're no longer watching, you're no longer listening. You are already there. You're saying, okay, when I get my hands on this, this is what's going to happen. This is how my life's going to change. You're starting to envision this stuff, and then the next thing you want to know is, how can I get it? That, by the way, is one of the teasing points of launches that we do here, which is a very long tease. It's like, no, you can't get it yet. You can't get it yet, but here's some free stuff, and here's some good information, some good solid stuff. And my friend Jeff Walker, who invented launch formula, talked about the launch process being a good sales letter turned sideways, so that rather than reading it in one sitting, you are delivered it in chunks over a period of days. And that, so the tease is built up, which is an essential part. Even as human, even hardcore direct response freelance copywriters still have to be sold when they buy their own stuff. We don't go out and automatically know which car to buy or which computer to buy. We go down there and we get sold just like everybody else, because it's a process of understanding. You can't just go down somewhere and say, I want the most expensive computer. If you go into an Apple store and you want the most expensive computer, you're going to have way too much hardware than you need, unless you're doing video production and stuff. So you have to know what's going on. So you need to find, when I bought my iMac, I go down there and I grab one of those geeks and I find the right one, and I have them explain it to me in very close detail, what it is I'm buying, what I need. I'm doing all this, and I'm a professional, so I still have to be sold. I have to force him to sell me to get me through that process where I'm going to leave with that computer, as opposed to thinking, okay, now I've got more information, now what do I do? No, I'm ready to move. Let's get through this. If he was smart, he would go through that from the very beginning with everybody that came in. I never hear the guys in the Apple store saying, what are your needs? What exactly are you going to use this for? They kind of brush across it, but they don't use really deep salesmanship stuff. Very few American companies that advertise on regular television or even online use good marketing. Rodrigo, you mentioned there are two groups of advertisers. There really are. There are the people who understand salesmanship, and then there are the advertising agencies and all the people like Coca-Cola. If anybody thinks they're going to advertise Coca-Cola budget every years so far, and it's like, yes, they can have a polar bear drinking a Coke and some happy music, and that sells Coke because they're branding. You can't do that when you're a regular marketer. You can't think that branding's going to save you, or a nice picture, or a nice slogan. It's like, do it now, and slogans kill people, and they look at mainstream advertising and they think, that's what I need to do, that's what I want to do. No, you got to understand salesmanship, which is, yes, if you have $1 billion and 100 years to waste, you can be like Coca-Cola and use advertising with them. Otherwise, you better use some hardcore salesmanship and know what's going on. Car sales, people think car sales, they're going to copy that for whatever their business is. They're going to sell software or something using what General Motors uses to sell Chevys. But you understand that Chevy only gets people interested. The real salesmanship happens on the floor of the car dealership, where one-on-one you're with a salesman who's going, what are your needs? Okay, well, here's a car, your prices, you get budget. All of these things come into play. So it doesn't happen just on the advertising. People get very confused about what advertising is. It's an opportunity for you to present your case as succinctly as possible so that it sticks. So, because especially online, people sit there with their finger hovering over their mouse. If you bore them, or you offend them, or you say something wrong, or you screw it up, click. They're back clicking, or they're clicking onto something else, or they're bopping around. Very short attention spans. It's always been this way. It was like that. It was like that when there were only a few channels on TV back in the 60s and 70s. But it's the same now with 100,000 websites that you can go to. It's always been a very small period of time, not even seconds, split seconds before you can get their attention and bring them in. That's why the first thing they see, the headline, the first image they see, the first touch you have, the first sensation they have has to start that, what we call a greased slide, which leads them into what you've got, through everything you're presenting, to the end of the deal where money exchanges hands. Very, very critical that happens. But again, it also is a process. It's a process that can be formalized and can be step by step. It's like, do this, then do this, make sure you do this, make sure you do this. So even if you're not a master salesman, or you've never written, maybe you've never sold anything at all, at least if you say, okay, I have to get their attention first, then I have to kind of explain who I am so they know how to fit me into this. I need to, establish my credibility. So maybe I'll bring in some testimonials. What's a testimonial? Oh yeah, I got Bob said something good about that. I'll write down what Bob had. And then you move, even if you do a clumsy, half-assed job of presenting the basic formula of presenting your case and nailing it down and asking for the sale, which is what a lot of ads never do. Even a clumsy job will do a lot better than somebody who doesn't market at all, or somebody who markets in some really silly way, like having a picture of their building or a picture of their software and saying, hey, it's $19, buy it now. It's just, put a little salesmanship in there and magic starts to happen.
Yeah, that's
and it's not mysterious, and it's not difficult. Humans have been doing it since the dawn of time. We actually found out there were used chariot salesmen in ancient Rome.
Okay.
So that's your car salesman. So salesmanship has been happening since society started, since the first tribes got together.
Yeah, and I understand that a lot of people were born to sell stuff, and I was one of them. Really, I couldn't sell anything, not even to save my life, really. But then again, we have so many people to thank for the knowledge that we have today. So today, I mean, it could be that it was an art back then, but today is more like a science, because we broke down everything into formulas, really, because of the work of people like you that actually did the real work. I mean, sold stuff on the streets and really figure out what really worked and all of that. So what we do today, the way I learned everything was by studying you guys and studying the formulas. And when you do that so often and so much, and start studying psychology and sales psychology, that thing starts to be part of you, kind of. You start to think in that way. So you kind of become what you're learning, and then it becomes second nature. But before that, it is really an alien space. You don't know what to do, etc. And if you're an entrepreneur today, on the internet, for example, what we want to help people with, we know that people that maybe they're not passionate about copywriting like we are, so they don't have like years to study stuff, psychology, and all of that. So all we want to do is just to make it as easy as possible, because nowadays is really, like you said, we have formulas. We can tell people, do this, and then you do this, and then you do that, and then you end up with a very effective sales message. So we trying to do is really to make it possible for anyone who can actually use a mouse to make it happen easy. It's very difficult to make any mistake because the formula is so structured. So you just follow the formula and then you get it done. I want to ask you, what do you see? I mean, this is a completely new world, right? With the internet, it's salesmanship like multiplied. It's like, it's scary how easy it is to buy stuff on the internet nowadays. So if you have a very good sales message, I mean, you're going to crush it. And that's what we want. So what do you see like the possibilities of what do you say? I mean, if every single entrepreneur, I mean, if you're small and you have an ebook, or if you're big and you have this very bad advertisement, if you're able to do yourself like a sales message, very proven sales message, effective sales message, what do you think the world will become when people start using like very good copywriting without even knowing how it works, the base of everything, but just use proven copyright? That's what we want. We want everyone to sell the most of their products with proven copywriting, just to make it easy for everyone. No one has the time to actually study as we do, right? So just make it easy to everyone. How do you see the world when everyone can actually put up some very good sales messages out there?
Well, there's no question that the arrival of the web changed the way capitalism works, and I use capitalism in a very positive way. It's especially for entrepreneurism. The fastest way for somebody to make a lot of money right now in the world is to start your own business, to get your own product and get out there and to sell it, because you can reach so many different people. I had clients in the 90s who were reaching massive numbers of people through direct mail lists and through magazines and through radio and sometimes on TV. But when the web hit, even that massive stretch just exploded again, because now you're talking about, Asia and Europe and South America and all these other markets suddenly opened up online. So people that were selling X amount, say you were selling $100,000 worth of X, whatever it was you were selling, when the web, it became a viable marketing medium, suddenly that number became 1 million, then 10 million, then 30 million. It multiplied just by leaps and bounds, because not only were you reaching more people just in your country, in the United States, that we couldn't reach before because they either weren't on a list, they didn't read magazines, they didn't watch TV, we didn't know how to reach them. Suddenly the penetration of the web into people's lives just multiplied everything. So you get, and especially then when Google AdWords came around, that's the difference between what we call push and pull marketing. Suddenly you're no longer pushing your message by having a banner ad or an ad in a magazine saying, hey, read this. Instead, people were actually looking in search engines for something they needed, and you could appear, through AdWords. And now Facebook is trying to do the same thing. They're kind of stumbling around. But all of this changes in the way you can identify, reach, and start a relationship with people who are your target audience. And the winners, there's always going to be these huge winners, these guys who either bring more investment or more money or more experience or more something to the game. They're always going to be at the top. There will be a middle ground, kind of a middle class that can be shrunk sometimes. If you look at Amazon, when Amazon arrived, there was a lot of competition, and now a lot of that competition has collapsed. Barnes & Noble failed at their online presence. They're relying on their bookstores now still. The other ones, I can't remember the name. There were other ones just as big, and they're gone. Those stores are empty. They disappeared. Amazon is now crushing book publishers now. So it's like the book publishing industry has changed. The U.S. Postal Service, once the star in the universe for postal delivery, one of the greatest services in the world, is being crushed by private delivery and UPS and FedEx and things like this. The world is changing. I think we're at a point where you can start to look into the future and get a fair idea of how things are going to be. Things are going to not change as dramatically as they have over the last 10 years. I feel so lucky that I've watched the last 10 years. I knew Eben Pagan and Walker and Kern. I knew Kern before, he even had his first product. And I watched these guys grow, and they really got it. And they brought a certain savvy, a millennial savvy about working online that I had to kind of adopt, but I've always adopted as I come along. So I bought one of the first iPhones. I was very quick. I have one of the first blogs. We called them web blogs back then. My blog is over 10 years old. I was an early adopter of Twitter and all kinds of social media. So, it's just as I recognize this stuff, I think we're in a period of time right now, guys, where it's going to remain calm. There's not going to be any big explosions, because we are now not at the point where capacity online is starting to multiply as it did. The difference between the web, when you could access video on your phone and when you couldn't, was only a matter of months. I don't know if you guys remember when the iPhone came out. It was huge. It just changed a lot of things. It created this mobile market, and then the idea that you didn't have to wait 5 minutes for the video to load. You could, and then YouTube, you could pop right on it in most cases. Now we're at points where we're starting to experience problems with capacity, and as you guys probably know, in the United States, they're starting to pass some bills. You may have to pay more to get better access to the web than other people. There will be different tiers, but those are the changes that are going to happen. That's the corporatization, and that's the natural arc of capitalism that I think you guys are charging. You know, Brazil is charging into this brave new world of online capitalism, and it's fun and it's great. But at the same time, the United States and parts of Europe are now settling down and saying, well, wait, who gets all this bandwidth? You know, Netflix takes up a lot of bandwidth. You know, why should they get it, and why shouldn't, you know, Amazon get it, and why should you with your little one-man band store, why should you get, you know, all this access, you know, too, that the same as other people do? So the idea of net neutrality is under assault. So how that plays out is gonna matter. However, regardless of how that plays out, the entrepreneur who gets savvy to salesmanship and savvy to the way that things are sold will be able to adjust. That's why I use myself as an example. I adjusted. When I started out, there was no web. I was working in Silicon Valley, by the way, and I was hanging out with these guys who became, you know, industrial light and magic. And I was living in a house right down the street from the HP garage where they invented, you know, the Hewlett-Packard stuff. But the web still didn't get going. I was one of the first guys on AOL. I was interested in the way the web was going. All of these things are going. So I'm interested. You can adapt. What hasn't changed? Okay, so what's changed is my understanding of, you know, I'm now online most of my workday. I got my blog, my social media. I'm emailing people. I'm using Skype and Google Hangouts. But what hasn't changed is how I sell, is how I do my communication one-to-one with anybody. It's the stuff that I'm writing, the stuff that I'm, the copy that I write. Some of it may change a little tiny bit, but for the most part, it's the same stuff that worked for me 30 years ago and worked for my mentors 30 years before that. And for guys that are long dead, you know, it worked for them too. And it's, again, it gets back to these fundamentals of how humans process information and make a decision. And they need to understand who you are, why you're credible, why this is going to help me, why they need to buy it now, what I need to do next. So, you know, so learning that, it doesn't matter what happens to the web. You're going to be adaptable. Unless the world changes into something like from 1984, the dystopian novel, I'm sure you guys have read, by George Orwell, unless it gets into some horrible state, there's always going to be room for the entrepreneur. And there will especially be room for the entrepreneur who knows how to sell, who knows how to use whatever avenues are open to him to be able to reach an audience, persuade that audience, sell that audience, start a relationship with that audience, and work out. I made my first big amount of money from a list of 300 people. That was probably 14 years ago. 300 people, but they were movers and shakers. And, you know, I had some stuff to sell, and I sold some seminars, I did some stuff, and I made a lot of money. A list of 300 people. So when you talk about now reaching, you know, 20, 30, 400 times that number, sometimes if you get the right conduit, especially through affiliate marketing, through being able to access somebody else's list, either through working with them or you know, accessing their stuff or having them mail for you, however that works. It's, you know, if you have a good stuff, if you have a good product, you can be a small nobody out there and get the attention and sell yourself to somebody who's bigger than you and have them sponsor you or have them endorse you or have them do something, and suddenly everything changes, and suddenly you've got these huge waves of new prospects coming your way. But you better know what to do with them once they come your way. So. Yeah,
it's some of the stuff you said, like when you said like you were one of the first to use Twitter and all like new technology and stuff like that. And the other day I was reading, because I read your kick-ass course for copywriting, and I remember that I saw your email that I think it was John Carlton at AOL.com, and I was like, man, AOL, that's like, I was like, whoa, that's quite a long time. And also like I was reading your blog, and I saw like the first post was from 2004. And I thought I didn't even use the web properly at that time. So it's like, it must be amazing, even like, especially for you, that like watch this whole progress. Like you watch, like I said, Kern, Pagan, and all these guys coming with grips with everything that the technology has brought forth and using it for like entrepreneurship and bringing products to the market. Because I think that's the big wave we're experiencing right now. Even me and Rodrigo, that we're not in the market as long as you are, but it's still, from the time we began until now, we saw amazing progress. Like some stuff that we need to code by ourselves, like opt-in pages. Today you have like lead pages and stuff like that, and you pointing, like the thing we're bringing to the market, that generated itself, is like click and point, and you waste less time on those things that you shouldn't be wasting, and more time on like getting to know your audience, creating a great product that you can actually sell and making improvements and the whole thing. So I think it's amazing how the entrepreneur have so many tools today that they can use and make their life and their job and everything so much easier. And I think that's gonna just like gets better and better and better. It's got like each year we see amazing improvements in each tool. We think we've reached the point, that's it. No, then we give another jump and things progress even more. So I think it's just amazing, like the experience we're seeing right now, what we can achieve with the internet, the people we can reach worldwide. Like right now we're talking from US, Norway, Brazil. So like that's gonna be more and more connected. I think that's really amazing that we can be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
it's exciting, and it's exciting for you guys to be in a market that's, not just an emerging market, an exploding market. So that's, you can learn a lot by reading up on the history of how the Americans, how we did it, because we really hit it first. And it was not just the web, but if you go back and read how America handled at the turn of the 20th century, in the 1900s, the railroad barons, they called it the Gilded Age. There was this is pre-World War I, but these were guys that were building railroads, building the first skyscrapers, putting together the first airplanes, the first tanks, the first cars. They were putting this stuff together, and the reason I bring this up is that what they did in a period of about 20 years then became the standard, became the baseline for everything else that happened. There were no, we went from biplanes to jets, but still, the big leap was air travel, and then we kind of perfected a little bit. But there was railroads, there was the expansion, all this stuff happened. It was we called it the robber baron period, and I recognized early on in the early 2000s we were in this online explosion, much like the Gilded era, and a lot of the things that these guys invented from scratch, everything from what a blog looks like, how, WordPress didn't exist back then. So what a blog looks like, what sites look like on mobile devices, what a website looks like, what banner ads look like, how Google even, we all take Google for granted. You pop onto Google, you got Google in a little box, and you type in. That stuff didn't exist. So all that stuff was created kind of out of nothing, and now it's the standard. So we're emerging from this period of time where things are being invented, even the way we look at it. Remember that without Steve Jobs, we wouldn't have the kind of graphic interface that we have now. He pushed for that simple graphic interface that Bruno was talking about. That now a yo-yo who can barely turn his computer on can go over and buy a WordPress theme and have his own blog. Get hosting. It's really simple. He buys a URL at GoDaddy. It goes over to HostGator. Gets a host and gets his themes up. He can be up and running. Can't write a word of code. Doesn't even know what code is, and can do all this stuff. That was a huge leap. Now we're past that. Let's get past that. I still have a programmer that I use. I don't write code. I have a guy. I use him very rarely. I have him go in if there's a problem. I know who to call, and I've got my email list taken care of at a certain place. I have the host. I buy URLs all the time, but mostly I'm not going nuts on stuff. And I tend to my blog and my social media space. And if the promise of Facebook plays out, blogs may go away too. I mean, Facebook really could just kind of take over that whole thing. There are good elements to that, and there are bad elements to that, because but the invention part is largely kind of settling down. There's no great leaps happening. So an entrepreneur can come in and feel really confident that that simple WordPress thing you have is going to be just fine for most of what you need. If you don't have a merchant account thing going on, you can use PayPal. You can't understand if you living now how hard it was to take orders back before PayPal happened, which came in through eBay, and all this stuff comes together. But it's all in place now. So all of those things that an entrepreneur used to have to worry about, writing code, merchant accounts, getting all this stuff going, it keeps getting simpler and simpler for that. So now what you're faced with is, okay, how do I find my audience and convince them? So you can start to concentrate more on the marketing side of it, which is a huge advantage. Yeah, I think we had an hour. That was pretty nice conversation. I could talk about this for days because it's very interesting stuff, but you don't want to overwhelm anybody. So it's a great time to be alive, a great time to be an entrepreneur, and really simple to do this stuff. You guys should tell people about my blog too, by the way, John-Carlton.com. So
well, we're gonna publish this video everywhere we can, so people are gonna know about you, get to know about the copywriting, the kind of job you do, and all the stuff we talked about in this video.
Yeah, please study what John has to say. So John-Carlton.com. We're gonna put the link on the screen so people can actually do it. And what I see based on what you were saying, back in the days it was kind of an art and a struggle to get a lot of pieces together. But nowadays an entrepreneur had all the tools in front of him. So now it's a responsibility to use it. It's a responsibility. So because it's so easy, you cannot afford not do it. And that's why we try, what we really try to get across to people nowadays. Otherwise, you're going to be a broken, sad entrepreneur for the rest of your life. Done. That's a nightmare story, right? That's a nightmare story. But so I think we're running out of time here. But I have one last question for you. Are you still playing rock and roll?
Yes. That's part of my legend is that I left marketing in the 90s when I was in my 40s and formed a 3-piece rock band and played all the biker bars in northern Nevada and had a lot of fun. And I still play and I still do a lot of stuff, but I'm not going out there quite so much. I'm not sitting in with bands anymore. That's a young man's game. So, but music, it's amazing how many people in marketing come from music. We still haven't figured it out, but Kern and Eben are both masterful guitarists. A lot of the guys that I deal with, the copywriters, are all musicians at certain levels. Not most of them, half of them probably have played professionally at some point, either in bars or in bands or actually gone into and done recording and stuff. It's amazing. So the music angle is huge, and I still haven't figured it out, but I think it has something to do with the creative side or the side of just loving life. Entrepreneurs tend to love life a little more than the average person. They think they handle risk better. They really don't. What they do is they just kind of face it better. They still have ulcers. They still worry. They still have problems doing things. They just face it. They have this get it done mindset, and that bleeds out into your entire life. Your whole lifestyle starts to improve when you know how to sell. We used to have a saying, salesmen just lead better lives, because you understand human psychology, you understand what it takes to persuade somebody, you understand, you're going to marry somebody better, you're going to have better friends, you're going to enjoy life better. All these things are going to happen because you're going to be in a place where you understand how things get done. So I
understand my girlfriend better with salesmanship. I can actually get things done, and I can go to play soccer during the week, and that's not a problem, because I started understanding it. Well, Rodrigo, do you want to say the final words? I think we should come up to a close now. I think I just want to thank again John for his time. It's very exclusive, and I know he's very busy as well. So thank you very much it was a lesson. I hope people actually took notes of these insights. And that's it. I really enjoyed our talk today. Thank you, John. And Bruno, if you want to say farewells, and then we're done. Yeah, no, I think you pretty much said everything. Just want to thank John for everything, for the inspiration. We've been learning from you from quite quite some time. Like I've read some of your course, I've been following your stuff, and even let's say your students, I've been following them, especially Kern, Pagan, and all these guys. Like we're big fans of them. So it's just huge. Like like everything we talked in, I think is going to help. Well, our main market is Brazil, but we know that is going to reach even more people, and it's just going to grow and grow. So I think that's really the biggest thing here. So I just want to say thanks to John for giving us the time to come and talk here. And I think that's it. If you have any last words.
This is together in the future then, guys. So.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, guys, so that's it for today. So I'm Rodrigo Polesso, and I'm with Bruno Piscinini. We are within the Máquina Automática de Vendas, and we talk in another video, okay? Have a good day. Bye-bye.